I was quite surprised when my mother-in-law praised me unexpectedly for being able to afford such a nice place, and her next words threw me even more. "We're really excited to move in with you," she beamed, adding to my confusion. I had to interrupt. "Hold on, just to clarify, despite the nice upgrade here, I don't think we discussed any moves. And remember, I'm currently single. My name is Grace, I'm 33 and work as a doctor at the Women's Health Clinic. My apartment is a cozy place, just a 10-minute drive from the clinic, where I live with my husband Frank and his parents. Our marriage began 4 years ago, and from the start, Frank was clear about one thing. He wanted us to live with his parents. As an only child, he felt a deep responsibility to be with them. Despite my initial reservations, I wholeheartedly agreed, and so we settled into a larger apartment to accommodate everyone. This arrangement meant sharing our lives closely with his parents. Initially, they insisted that I, being a busy doctor, should focus on my career and leave the household chores to them. "As a doctor, Grace, you must be swamped. We'll take care of the household tasks so you can concentrate on your patients," they reassured me. They kept their promise, managing all the cooking, cleaning, and other domestic responsibilities, which allowed me to dedicate myself fully to my medical duties. However, about 8 months ago, our living situation took a surprising turn. Frank suddenly quit his job, and when I asked him why, his answer was unsettling. "I think I've done enough for now. I need a break before I start something new. Plus, with your salary, we won't face financial hardships," he explained. I was shocked and questioned the wisdom of such a significant decision made without my input. "What if you can't find another job? What if something happens to me?" I asked, worried. His response was dismissive. "There's no need to be pessimistic. We had some savings to rely on, but as I tried to explain the situation, my mother-in-law stepped in. "Now, Grace, don't be too harsh on him," she said. "Frank has worked hard up to this point. A break is truly deserved, don't you think? Maybe you could step up a bit during his break." I was speechless, shocked by the injustice of her request. My job was already taxing enough, and the idea that I should handle all our financial burdens while Frank took it easy seemed absurd. Despite facing my daily challenges, I found her suggestion unfair. When I voiced my thoughts, my mother-in-law looked at me sharply and said, "Let me remind you, Grace, you're not the only one facing difficulties. While you're at work, your father-in-law and I manage the household chores and our jobs without a break. If you continue this way, we'll stop helping out around the house. From now on, you're on your own." Her words left me speechless. With that, she and Frank went to the living room to watch TV. Suddenly, I was left alone to manage both the household duties and my career. No one else seemed willing to help. Meals became a mere afterthought, often just enough to stave off hunger. Yet their tastes remained expensive, favoring dishes like sushi, which only increased the demand for more money to cover food costs. "Grace, make sure there's enough money for our meals. Are you trying to starve us?" they would say. Even when I called for spending cuts, my mother-in-law would retort, accusing me of being heartless for wanting to skimp on food. When we were all stuck at home with no other luxuries, Frank lashed out at me, accusing me of being heartless and neglecting my duties towards my in-laws. "Maybe divorce is the solution," he declared in frustration. Feeling pressured, I reluctantly agreed to increase the budget for groceries, allowing my in-laws and Frank to satisfy whatever culinary whims they had. One day, during a quick break from work, I rushed to a nearby gas station to pick up some essentials. At the checkout, I realized my card was missing and my wallet felt unusually light. Confused and anxious, I raced home after work. As I burst into the living room, I was greeted by the sight of a shiny new television. "Welcome home, Grace! Back so soon?" Frank greeted me, his tone unnaturally cheerful. Beside him, my mother-in-law chimed in, "Isn't it splendid, Grace?" Both wore sly smiles that didn't sit well with me. "What's this? How did you manage to afford this?" I asked, stunned by the extravagant purchase. "We used the savings," came the nonchalant reply. My mother-in-law quickly took this as a cue to add her bit, her voice dripping with feigned gratitude. "Oh, Grace, we had no idea you were saving so diligently for us. You should have told us sooner. With your generous contributions, we can now enjoy even more luxuries. You've finally proven your worth as a daughter-in-law." That's when I spotted my card on the table. "Wait, did you use my savings? And how did you get my PIN?" I demanded. The answer was dismissive and chilling. "It's simple to deduce, after all, we're family," my mother-in-law declared with a sly grin, implying they used Frank's birthday as the PIN, suggesting it showed my affection for him. I didn't choose that PIN with Frank in mind, I confessed. The PIN had remained unchanged since our marriage, and my feelings toward Frank had cooled significantly. Despite my revelation, both my mother-in-law and Frank continued their bold demands. "You haven't fulfilled your duties as a daughter-in-law thus far. There's no need to fuss over this. Your obligation is clear. Hand over your savings to us quietly," they insisted, disregarding my concerns and rights entirely. They demanded, "We expect $6,000 a month from now on. Don't try to hide your earnings. Make sure we get our fair share." Their brazen demands pushed me to my limit. "This isn't a joke. Why should my hard-earned money line your pockets? If you want money, earn it yourselves." I directed my frustration towards both my mother-in-law and father-in-law, urging them to show some decency and consider the household finances before trying to extort money from me. The room fell into a tense silence, my words seeming to hang heavily in the air. However, it didn't take long for my in-laws to respond. "Such impudence! Is this how you speak to your mother-in-law?" they exclaimed. "We see no gratitude in you. What good is a daughter-in-law who only contributes money? Your audacity is unbelievable. You've crossed a line," my father-in-law added angrily. Frank, caught up in the moment, stormed off to his room. When he returned, he was holding a piece of paper. It was a divorce decree. To my shock, not only was Frank's signature on it, but my in-laws' signatures were there too, as witnesses. "File it if you dare, but be ready to leave this condo. We can't live with a stranger," Frank declared, his tone cold. "Unlike his wife, Frank is capable," my father-in-law stated sternly. "We'll overlook your outburst as a temporary lapse, but any further defiance will lead to your removal," they threatened, their laughter echoing mockingly around the room. Anger surged through me, but there was also a glimmer of satisfaction. Now was not the time for retaliation. Holding back my urge to react, I calmly declared, "I'll begin moving my belongings and essentials," and headed to my room. My in-laws and Frank watched in disbelief, likely thinking I'd beg for forgiveness at the mere mention of divorce. How naive. The signed divorce papers were a clear indication of their intentions. Quickly, I began to gather my belongings, preparing to start anew, free from their manipulations and demands. I declared firmly, "I'm leaving, and don't expect me to come to your aid even in times of trouble." With that, I left our shared condo and divorce papers securely in my possession and sought refuge in a nearby business hotel for the night. I took swift action and canceled the car lease that Frank had been using. When I checked my bank account, I was shocked to see that the once plentiful balance of over $25,000 was now down to just $5,000. The discovery of their lavish spending piqued my curiosity, but fortunately my financial foresight had led me to keep substantial reserves in 2 other accounts. Despite the sting of losing $20,000, I saw it as a necessary loss to sever ties with that family. The next day, I wasted no time and headed straight to the city office to submit the divorce papers. I felt a wave of relief as they were accepted. To ensure everything was finalized, I double-checked my family register certificate, confirming my status as officially divorced. At last, I had cut all ties with that troublesome family. While part of me wanted to rejoice, I remained composed, aware that there were more tasks to handle. My next stop was a real estate agency, where I addressed 2 critical matters. First, I purchased a home for myself, utilizing the savings I had diligently accumulated over the years. Throughout this process, I truly understood the significance of living life on my terms. This realization underscored the value of freedom, a precious commodity that could easily be compromised. Understanding the importance of seizing opportunities and asserting my autonomy without hesitation, I settled into my new single-story house, reveling in its spacious living room and practical kitchen. This new beginning marked a pivotal moment, reminding me of the strength and independence I had cultivated through these challenges. With a coveted walk-in closet all to myself, I was determined to make my new house truly mine. I spent the entire day meticulously furnishing every nook and cranny, arranging everything just so over the next 2 days. It was a whirlwind of shopping sprees, acquiring essentials, and indulging in the thrill of crafting my sanctuary. While the expense of replacing everything was substantial, I saw it as a worthy investment for a fresh start. A few days later, as I sat down to dinner around 9 p.m., the doorbell rang, interrupting my peaceful evening. Curious to see who it could be at such an hour, I checked the intercom screen and was greeted by a familiar scene: Frank, my former mother-in-law, and my former father-in-law standing there. It was almost nostalgic. Anticipating what was to come, I approached the door and opened it before I could say a word. Frank began to rant. "What's the idea, disappearing without a word? It's madness." His outburst prompted his parents to step in. "Frank, take a breath. We agreed to discuss this calmly, remember?" His mother interjected soothingly. "Exactly. Look at this place. Isn't it fantastic? It's far more spacious and inviting than our cramped condo," his father added, trying to ease the tension. Despite my protests, they barged into my home without hesitation. "Hold on, you can't just waltz in here uninvited," I objected, but my polite protest fell on deaf ears. "Enough. This is as much our place as yours. What's the harm in us visiting?" Frank retorted, brushing aside my objections. With that, they proceeded to explore my home, commenting on the decor. "The furniture isn't to my taste," my former mother-in-law remarked dismissively. As I observed them taking in the new space, Frank's father commented appreciatively on the layout. "I must admit the layout is quite decent. It might even be more comfortable than our current condo." My mother-in-law chimed in unexpectedly. "I never imagined you could afford such a place. Well done, dear. We don't mind moving in with you." She then added, "We're informing you that we've approved this condo and will be residing here with you. Perhaps we can overlook your past transgressions. Though your conduct as a daughter-in-law has been subpar, we acknowledge your gesture in securing this residence for us. Perhaps Frank will find it satisfactory." Stunned by their audacity, I replied, "Excuse me, who's the wife and who's not getting divorced?" I interjected, confused by their presumptions. The room fell silent as the three exchanged puzzled glances. "I'm not married, you know, I'm single," I clarified. Rather than showing any astonishment, they seemed unable to grasp my words. "What nonsense are you spouting? Do you think you can escape the consequences of your disrespect?" my father-in-law retorted. In response, I thrust the divorce certificate into Frank's stunned face, causing a visible shift in their demeanor. "Grace, how dare you take such action without consulting us? Do you expect forgiveness?" my mother-in-law demanded. "Yes, I do. After all, you provided it to me for that purpose, didn't you?" I replied calmly. "Grace, how dare you take such action without consulting us? Do you expect forgiveness?" she repeated, her tone growing more agitated. "Forgiveness? Your names were clearly stated on the divorce notice. Including your names implies a decision was made, doesn't it? You were the ones who initiated the divorce papers, weren't you? Frank explicitly instructed me to file them, if possible," I pointed out, holding my ground as they processed the reality of their actions. So, I stood my ground firmly. The three of them fell silent, their faces flushing with embarrassment. Unwavering, I decided to push the matter further. "Let's not forget that you were the ones who kicked me out. It seems you've conveniently overlooked the fact that the condo you currently occupy is registered under my name. Now that we're estranged, I see no reason to maintain that arrangement. Therefore, I've terminated it. If you fail to vacate within a week, I'll have you forcibly removed from the premises. I declared confidently. Their expressions quickly turned from anger to shock, their faces draining of color. With determination, I executed my final move, dialing a number on my phone. I spoke to the receiver. "Hello, I regret to inform you that there are trespassers in my home. Yes, 3 individuals who have forcefully entered my property. Please send assistance immediately." I had called the police as their protests echoed in my ears. "Don't assume you can escape the consequences," one of them exclaimed. "What kind of daughter-in-law are you? It's appalling to involve authorities in family matters," another added. Their words were a futile attempt to deflect accountability. With their parting remarks still in the air, they swiftly exited my home. As I had repeatedly stated, I was indeed single, and finally my battle had drawn to a close. I had braced myself for potential retaliation, expecting them to target me at the hospital where I worked. Surprisingly, they never followed through. Despite the expiration of the week-long eviction notice, they stubbornly remained in the apartment. Shortly thereafter, I received a call from the real estate agent, signaling the next steps in resolving the situation. When the authorities arrived, I informed them that those individuals were strangers to me. Consequently, they were charged with trespassing and dealt with accordingly. Each was fined $3,500, but unsurprisingly, none of them could afford to pay. A relative from the countryside stepped in and settled the fines on their behalf, and they were then forcibly relocated to the countryside. It's likely that by now they are working on a farm, unpaid, under the watchful eye of their relative. For me, life is unfolding smoothly. Embracing my newfound independence, I've rediscovered the joys of living alone after years of prioritizing others over myself. Every day feels like a fresh start. Moving forward, I'm determined to savor each moment and seize the opportunities that come my way, ensuring that I make the most of this precious life. The peaceful solitude allows me to reflect and grow, reminding me of the importance of self-care and personal boundaries in achieving a fulfilling and balanced life.